So, what does it mean to live without limits? Our guest today has spent his life sitting with that question and then living the answer. He's a technology leader by profession, a writer, and spiritual seeker by nature, and someone who has made it his mission to walk the space between innovation and introspection. He grew up shaped by two cultures, the depth of India and also the freedom of the West. But rather than choosing between them, he chose to go deeper than both. He lives in New Jersey with his family and finds his inspiration not in boardrooms or stages, but in the quiet rhythms of family, nature, and faith. He's also the author of Being Boundless, a book about breaking free from the invisible walls that the world builds around us and discovering who we actually are. On Instagram, people follow him not just for the highlight reels, but also about sharing honesty about his journey, the realizations, the questions. And today we're going to go deep on identity, warriorship, on power, and much more, and what it actually means to be boundless. So please welcome Datta KORDE.
Thank you.
So thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, no, thank you first of all for that introduction. I didn't know I was doing so many things, so thanks a lot for that. Now you rightly introduced me. I live in New Jersey, USA. I work for a major book publisher, but while I am doing my work and executing my responsibilities, you rightly identified it when you said that my life has been about identifying what my true nature is. I've been constrained like any other human being by the attachments that we have in our life and the issues and problems that you encounter because of those attachments. So I guess here I was just like anybody else who eventually asks, is this all that is to life? And is there something beyond it?
Amazing, amazing. So, so you walk the space between technology and spirituality,
Yep.
and these are two worlds that most people keep separate.
Yeah.
It's pretty hard to keep them together.
Right.
So how did that happen for you? Where did it start?
Well, to tell you the truth, I got this. I feel like I owe it to my parents for the spiritual angle in my life. But I always grew up with science and technology. I did my engineering, and prior to that, I was in the field of science as well, even in my undergraduation years. So when I was introduced to spirituality through by my parents and through the books that I have read, the scriptures that I have read, I always wanted to validate that through science and technology. So just to give you a simple example, when I was first introduced to the concept of rebirth, right, it was hard for me to believe that something like that actually happens. And then one day, my wife gifted me this book called Many Lives, Many Masters by Dr. Brian Weiss. He is a doctor who has documented several cases in that book, which explain in detail the whole concept of rebirth and the Hindu philosophy of going from one life form to the other, and how the actions and the results of your actions from your previous life impact the present life. And Dr. Brian Weiss has actually documented all of that. So this is how, I've always wanted to find a scientific angle through to whatever spiritual aspects of my life that I was being introduced to through the scriptures.
Amazing. Do you think it happened in an instant or was it a slow drift? Because that's a lot of the questions that people have.
Yeah, I know. I don't think that any of this happens in an instant. It's a journey.
Yeah.
It's a journey. If you actually believe in Hindu scriptures in particular, right? They say that all your past actions generate results, they accumulate, and they are the results of those actions are responsible for the life that you're leading right now. So the journey is not just this life, it's spread over several lives itself. So to directly answer your question, I don't think it happens in an instant. It's a journey. Even anything that happens in an instant, let's take the example of, say, somebody having an unfortunate heart attack or something, right? We say that it happened suddenly, but it doesn't happen suddenly. It has all the bad habits and things that I have done in the past accumulate together, and then the outcome shows up suddenly. So it feels that it is sudden, but I do feel that it's a journey. You go through it to reach that point.
How does your family think about this combination of just balancing spirituality and your career as well?
Yeah, so I have been extremely fortunate, and I consider myself very blessed that my family, when I say my family, my parents, my wife, and my kids, they are more spiritually inclined, I would say, as compared to me. So having them on the same path and walking with me together makes it very easy for me,
Nice.
because they appreciate the value of contributing time and efforts in spiritual exploration. Because when your partner, if your wife or your husband or your spouse, your partners are not aligned with you, then the journey, obviously the journey continues because that's your calling, right? But it becomes that much more difficult. So I've been very lucky and I'm very grateful for that fact that my wife, my kids, and my parents have always stood by my side. And as I said, like, I learn from them. I feel like they are much more spiritually evolved than I am.
Awesome. So, got a chance to read the book as
Okay.
well. Question that keeps coming up is that when you're growing up between two cultures, so for example, I was born in India, we moved here in 2010.
Right.
And then the question that comes to me is like how do I answer the who am I?
Mm.
Am I am I Indian? Am I Canadian?
Right.
And like when you were younger, like how did you answer that question when you had this?
So are you talking in terms of nationality, you are saying?
Nationality, it could be nationality. I think that's what the surface level it comes
Okay,
down to. And
got
then
it. I see
obviously
where you're
people.
going with
Yeah.
this. Yeah. No, so when I was growing up in India, obviously, see, I'll share an incident actually. Now that you asked me this, it has triggered a memory. And I think I have yes, I have mentioned it in the book. So there used to be a temple where I used to live, where I grew up, right behind our house. And in the temple, in the morning during the prayer services, there was a mantra that used to be recited. The person, the main person who used to manage the temple, used to recite. It's in Marathi. It goes, Ghalin lotangan vandina charan dolyane pahina rupa tuje. What it means is, and when you say this line, you go in a circle, and it literally means that I am walking in a circle and I see you everywhere. A devotee is talking to God, and the devotee is saying, I see you everywhere. I remember very clearly when I understood it for the first time, what is being said. The question that immediately popped in my head was, okay, you're saying that I can see God everywhere as you're going in a circle, right? So then why do I have to only pray to the idol which is in front of me? And then my dad had enrolled me in a convent school, so I was exposed to Bible from a very early age. And one thing that I learned from Bible was that God is everywhere. So that question would keep coming back to me, like, if God is everywhere, why are we localizing our prayers when it comes to doing these prayers, right? And then eventually that question, I didn't even realize over a period of time, when the question then flipped into, what am I doing here? Like, one thing that was as I was growing up, it, the kind of economic background that I came from, I knew that I have to get good grades so that I can get a good job. So with God's grace, I worked hard, I got good grades, I got a good job. After a good job, I kept chasing something else. The goalpost kept moving. I achieve one thing, and then something new is there in front
Yeah.
of me. And then I reached a stage eventually where I started asking, is this it? Is there something beyond this or not? So that question then started making, I started asking myself that, who am I really?
Yeah.
I'm an Indian. I was growing up, I was there, right? And then I moved to America, and then I'm like, okay, just because I've crossed borders, do I now become a completely different individual? The nationality changes, the external identity changes, but the question started becoming deeper and deeper as to who am I really?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like it starts with a lot of people from just um like understanding, I think, the deep self beyond the culture,
Right.
right? If someone was to start practicing this today,
Right.
so as an individual who's 20 years old,
Right.
what do you think they can do right now, like practically,
Huh.
to kind of start going a little bit deeper than surface level, that I'm not just who I am on the passport,
Right.
right?
Right.
What am I beyond that? What do you think would be the first step?
See, the first step is the question has to come. Until the question doesn't come, you won't look for the answers. The first step is the question has to come. And you know how the question comes is, as I said, like, the goalpost kept moving, right? We are all looking for happiness. Everything that we do in our life, if you keep asking, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? The answer eventually comes down to, I am looking for happiness. Now, the reality is that materialistic things, achieving certain goals will give you happiness. I'm not saying they don't give you happiness, but the nature of that happiness is temporary. You go and buy the latest iPhone 17 right now, and you will be happy. I'm not saying you won't be happy, but when the next version of iPhone comes, that happiness just evaporates,
Yeah.
and you start chasing that next version of iPhone, and then you can zoom out and apply this to everything. So at some point, we have to start realizing that we are all looking for happiness that is eternal in nature, not temporary, eternal in nature. So, to achieve that eternal happiness, you obviously will have to connect yourself to something whose eternal nature, whose intrinsic nature is happiness. In the Upanishads, they talk about this. They say that there are two sets of qualities: intrinsic quality and borrowed quality. Okay, and they give this example. They say that, let's say that you are boiling potato on a stove, on a gas, right? So when the potato is being boiled, it borrows heat from the water in which it is kept. The water is borrowing heat from the pan, right? The pan is borrowing heat from the fire, but fire is hot by its very nature. So the intrinsic quality of fire is heat. Everybody else, the pan, water, and the potato, borrowed heat. Because you remove the potato and keep it aside, you turn the gas off, they will cool down. So if I want unlimited happiness, I need to find and connect myself to something that is by its very nature, whose intrinsic quality is in unlimited happiness. And then the Upanishad further goes on to say that the true nature of Brahma, God, is Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Meaning, this is the Satya, this is consciousness, and this is Anantam Brahma. By its very nature, it is eternally happy. So I need to know that. I need to get that knowledge. And how do you get? You get any knowledge by going to a teacher. So to get spiritual knowledge, you need to go to a spiritual master.
Okay. Awesome. So I guess the way to enjoy is to find that internal way of happiness. Amazing.
Right.
So Jordan Peterson has said a good man is not someone incapable of aggression.
Incapable of
Incapable of
aggression. Yes.
aggression. He's someone capable of it, but in voluntary control.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I'm a huge fan of Swami Vivekananda ji. And Swami Vivekananda ji had once said that it's only a fool who doesn't get angry. A wise man knows when to get angry. So, see, anger, aggression, all these are emotions. When you come to the feet of a spiritual master, you get this, the knowledge that you get, the divine knowledge, which it is called, is that you are not the emotion. And when you understand that, you realize that thoughts and emotions are something that emerge inside me, and they stay with me only if I entertain them. If I entertain them, I become the emotion, and then I lose control. And then I start reacting to the emotion. But people who have this wisdom that I am not the emotion, they can create a gap between the emotion and themselves. Like anger, for example. A person who has this knowledge does not say that I am angry. They will say I am experiencing anger. And when you say I'm experiencing anger, you create a gap between the true you and the emotion of anger. And in that gap, you can use the anger to do the right thing. For example, a mother has to get angry at a child sometime to teach the right lessons. Does not mean that the mother doesn't love the child. In fact, she is intentionally getting angry to teach the child to do the right thing. So I do agree with that statement. Yeah.
Awesome. And where do you think confidence ends and arrogance begins? In the same.
Yeah, this is a very good question. Confidence ends and arrogance begins. See, arrogance is an attribute that is directly related to our ego, right? Our ego thinks that I am the hero of this movie. Everybody else is playing a supporting cast, right? So everything is about me. Everything is happening for me, right? On the other hand, confidence is about how can I contribute. This is the way I look at it. Again, it's a very subjective question. Everybody is going to have a different opinion on it. But the way I look at it is that confidence is about believing in the capabilities that I have been given and using that for the benefit of the society. On the other hand, arrogance is about I know it, I have it, and I am the best. You don't have to come and advise to me. So the moment the ego peaks up and the ego takes control of my life, that's where arrogance comes in. While the ego is in control and I use the skills that I have, that is what I'll call confidence.
And going back to like what we just talked about in terms of finding the internal happiness.
Right.
Do you think there's a place of arrogance and ego on that path, or when someone's starting on that path, could that be the first thing that they should start taking out now, like arrogance, ego, anger?
So I'll give you a bad news and a good news here. So the bad news is that even after you're blessed with the true divine knowledge by a spiritual master, right? Your ego is never going to go away. Your ego will be with you until this body exists. Ego is a part of the body. It is connected with the body. In Upanishads, it is called as causal body. The causal body includes the ego in it, and it is present till the body is present. On the spiritual path, what you realize is that I am not the ego. I am separate from the ego. My true nature is separate from the ego. And when you realize that, you understand that I don't have to cater the needs of the ego. So you create that distance. So the bad news I was trying to tell you is that ego is never going to go away. It's going to remain until this body remains. The good news is that with the knowledge that I am not the ego, you will be able to constantly do self introspection and make sure that you are not catering the needs of the ego, and instead you do the right things. So that's the good news.
Awesome. So I'm seeing that you don't have to be perfect to go on this path. You can start improving, iterative process.
It's a journey.
It's a journey. Awesome. I read somewhere that when you put your clothes in the washing machine,
Ajay,
you don't put clean clothes, right? You have to.
beautifully
The whole
said.
point of putting it is if it's a little dirty,
Exactly.
then it gets clean, right?
Exactly.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
On Instagram, a lot of people get these reels that you should be a warrior in the modern day. So what does being a warrior actually mean
Being a warrior in the current
in the
circumstances.
current circumstances?
I would say being a warrior in the current circumstances would be, what can I do in these current circumstances? See, you wake up and in the morning, and when you hear the news that you hear, there is a strong potential that you end up listening to more negative things than positive things. The reality is that the world is continuing and humanity is existing because there is some balance somewhere between the positive things happening in the world and the negative things that are happening in the world. News media in particular, they want to project only the sensational things because of the whole clickbait situation, right? They want you to click on the links, they want to draw your attention, and biologically we are programmed to be in that state of fight or flight, right? So our DNA, as they say that our DNA closely matches with the DNA of the caveman. So that flight and fight situation is programmed into our DNA. So biologically we pay more attention to something that could potentially harm me. So that's why the algorithms of today, they project those things more than the positive things, right? The kind of warrior that I think even I should become, we all should become, is to project the positives that are happening in the world. See, in my circle, I have to ask myself, what can I do which will positively contribute to what is happening in the world around me today, right? It could be something as simple as sending prayers. It could be something as simple as sharing on my Instagram account, sharing the positive things that are happening in the world. So I would say the today's warrior should be, how do we create a balance? And you create that balance by sharing positive things. Ask yourself on a daily basis, what can I do in this situation, and do that. Because not everything can be done by me, depending upon my circumstances, my situation, right? But there are things that I could do to add positivity, and identify that and just do that.
Awesome. So would you also agree that the current war that's happening is within our minds almost nowadays? Because I feel like we're not going to go out there and physically fight a battle like was in like scriptures they used to talk about,
Right.
even Mahabharat. I feel like we have that Mahabharat now in our minds now, because a lot of mental health topics are coming into more awareness because of social media, the internet. Would you also agree that the new war can also be just in your mind?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I do. I completely align with what you're saying, is that in today's day and age, it's all about my mind, and they call it the attention economy, right? That they are all trying to grab my attention. And where exactly I'm going to pay attention to, it is going to manifest itself into something bigger. So yes, the war definitely is in my mind. And we have heard about that metaphor, right? That there are two dogs inside us, a positive one and a negative one, and I turn into the one who I feed. And that feeding is nothing but attention. What do I pay attention to? Whatever I pay attention to, it's going to manifest into behavior. Behavior is going to create my character, and character is going to create my destiny. So, absolutely. That war is going inside of me, and that's why I need to be extremely mindful of what I pay attention to on a day to day basis.
Do you think the current most valuable currency is attention?
Absolutely.
Do you think that a lot of social media companies or even the big giants, is that what they're trying to
Yes.
accumulate from everyone?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not an expert at social media, but as a user of social media, I do think that that's the whole basis on which the algorithm is built. Right? It's biology. Whatever I pay attention to, it starts manifesting, right? And the biology, the algorithm is almost based on that. Like I am a heavy Instagram user, as you introduced me, and we all know if I go and click on a video which talks about, say, a red Ferrari, suddenly my algorithm of Instagram is flooded with that, right? So yeah, they are trying to grab my attention, but see, at the end of the day, I also have to take some responsibility of what is happening. I can't just blame the social media company. They are giving me a service. It's my choice. How am I going to use it? So I need to take the responsibility as well, that while they might be trying to grab my attention through various means and methods, I have the freedom as to how I want to use the social media apps that are available. You can actually use them in a very, very positive way as well. And I try to do that. So at the end of the day, I think, while they are trying to grab my attention, the onus also lies on me as to how much I want to give my attention back to them.
Awesome. And I'm assuming you have read a lot of books and even parts of history. Do you think we're the first, I guess, humans to face this type of issue? Or do you think this attention grabbing method has always existed in some sort of form? It could be a circus, or it could be like the fights they used to have in Rome for
Yeah.
entertainment. What do you think?
Yeah, no, first of all, yeah, I do love reading. So I feel like reading keeps me humble. Every time I read something new and a different topic, it helps me realize there is so much more knowledge out there, and that keeps helps satisfy my curiosity. I do agree with what you just said, that it has always been about grabbing the attention, right? And you give good examples in terms of whether it was the fights that were happening during the Roman period, or eventually afterwards radio came up,
Yeah.
right? And then after that television came up, after that internet came up. But the speed and the strength of grabbing attention has increased exponentially, is what I will say.
Hmm.
The way the algorithms are designed now, if we don't pay attention, they can really harm us. There is a beautiful book written by Professor Jonathan Haidt called as The Anxious Generation, and it's a revolutionary book. It is actually, that book is actually responsible for a lot of social media bans, especially related to younger kids in most of the countries that is coming out right now. I'll strongly encourage your listeners and viewers to read that book. The book talks detailed research done by Professor Jonathan Haidt, and it talks about how um, you know the process of grabbing attention has jumped exponentially, especially after 1996, if I'm not wrong. He says that in 1996, a series of things happened, coincided with each other's. One was Facebook introduced the like button, Twitter introduced the retweet button, mobile phones started having the front facing cameras, and the speed of internet jumped tremendously. And when all four of these things came together, he talks about how it created a tremendous impact on us biologically, and especially younger kids, how the process of grabbing our attention just jumped exponentially.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads me into the next question. Have you heard about the Matrix, the
Yeah.
stuff that goes on Instagram? They talk about how they're trying to control us, the governments. I feel like we can almost relate it to the fact that you have this currency, which is attention. And now if they're able to basically control where we're giving our attention, I feel like they would have a bit more control. So society right now has a script. You work 9 to 5, you commute, which will take an hour in the morning, an hour after. You get to spend maybe 1 or 2 hours with your family when they're back from school, weekends, and you have to repeat.
Right.
So how do you stay true to yourself while functioning inside that structure? How do you make sure that you're doing what you want to do And like you mentioned in the beginning, going down that path of eternal happiness, like what's your structure and what do you actually do to make it happen?
One is you need to have clarity about what you want. I do feel that quite often most of us are not even clear about what we want in
Hmm.
life. So the first and foremost thing that needs to happen is you need to have absolute crystal clarity as to what exactly is it that I want, right? And then once that clarity comes, the path starts opening up actually. When one of my mentors, Professor Rajan Sachdev, he often says this. He says that, see, when you're faced with a situation or a circumstance, right, there are three possible options. One, you don't like the situation, change it. If you cannot change it, walk away. If you cannot walk away, then develop the quality of patience and plow through it. You know, so first you need to have a goal, right? And not every time you will be able to just jump and go and achieve that goal, right? Then figure out a way step by step. Right now I cannot achieve it. Okay, can I start making some steps so that I'm ready for it when I can go ahead and achieve it? So have clarity of the goal and then start creating a plan and going for it. See, obstacles will always be there, but over a period of time, I have realized that blaming others, or because of XYZ, I'm not able to do this, because of ABC, I'm not able to do so and so things, those situations and circumstances will always be there. I have to figure out a way to look inward, own up my own responsibility, you know, take onus, take responsibility that this is my goal and I'm going to go and achieve it. Create a plan. There will be obstacles, figure out a way to work around the obstacles. So I feel that first, have clarity about what you want and then take ownership of achieving that goal. Eventually you will get there. There is a beautiful book called Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. He's one of my favorite authors, and he says that when you actually have a goal and you start working towards it, you literally manifest support for it. Nature will support you to achieve those goals. But first and foremost thing is you need to have a goal in mind. So I do firmly believe in that, and I've experienced that in my life. So I think that's the way I'll approach that.
And how do you think this manifestation happens? Is this the energy you're giving out in the world? Is
Mm.
it your prayers? Is it just that, if you're positive things happen to you? Like, how does this manifestation work?
Well, I'm not an expert in this field, but I'll just share what I feel, what I think, right? When you go to the feet of a spiritual master, and I've been lucky that I came to the feet of Sadhguru Mata Sudiksha Ji Maharaj. She is the spiritual head of Sant Nirankari Mission. She blessed me with this divine knowledge, which has helped me understand that I am not this body, I am not this mind, intellect, or ego. I am the witness that sits behind all of this, and all the attributes and qualities and powers have come from that. So in a way, I actually have those powers. So if I can dissociate myself from the limitations that I create by associating with my body, if I can dissociate myself from the limitations that I create by associating with my mind and intellect, if I can dissociate myself from the limitations I create by connecting with my ego, and realize that I am that supreme energy from which everything has come into existence, you can see where it is going, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can manifest what you want because everything is coming from that. But for that, you need to first need that knowledge. In the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna talks to Arjuna about this, and he says that with this divine knowledge, you will be Jivan Mukta. Meaning, while you are alive, you will be free. Free from what? Free from the limitations that are created by the body, mind, intellect, and ego. So that is what happens. So just again, I'm not saying that, as I said, I'm not an expert in this, but my understanding is that once you get this knowledge, you realize that everything comes from this. So if everything comes from this, and I realize that I am that, then of course you can manifest what you want.
Awesome. So I guess you can escape the matrix while being in the matrix if you have the right clarity
Right.
and knowledge.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So, um, you talk about detached observation, and
Right.
we've mentioned it a couple times. So,
Right.
watching yourself from outside. What does that actually feel like? Like, and how did you get there? Did you just wake up one day and you're like, I'm gonna watch myself from outside, or was this like what got you into this? Did you hear this from somewhere? And how did you get yourself to believe that this was the way to live life?
See, again, this is the answer to this is similar to what I just said, right? When Sadhguru Mata Sudiksha Ji Maharaj, when she blessed me with this divine knowledge, right, and she helped me understand that I am not this body, and I am not this mind. So let's focus on mind here, right? Mind is no organ. Mind is a combination of thoughts and emotions, right? And we live our life completely surrendered to our thoughts and emotions. When I'm angry, I behave in an angry way. When I'm happy, I behave in a happy way. So you see what is happening here. We become one with that emotion and we start living like that. But with the knowledge that Sadhguru Mata Suriksha Ji Maharaj gave me, I realized that mind is just something that is there in me. Emotions are something that arise in me, but they are just emotions, they are just thoughts. If I don't entangle with them and if I don't play with them, they eventually go away. You know, you don't have to entertain them. In fact, when that wisdom comes, you can use it positively. The way we spoke about anger, you can use anger also positively if you have that wisdom. Now, having the knowledge and having the wisdom are two different things. It's a journey. When a spiritual master blesses you with this knowledge, you have the theoretical knowledge, but to practically implement it, it takes time. For example, like we are living in the age of AI, and I work in technology field, so I wanted to upgrade myself. So I went to MIT and I did a 6-7 month long course related to AI. But going to MIT and doing that course was just getting the knowledge. It took me several months and now close to a year now to actually implement that knowledge, practically implement it, and get to a point where I can say that I'm an amateur in AI now. Just an amateur. It will take me some time, dedicated practice and expert, to say that I'm becoming an expert in AI. It is the same thing with this also. It takes time, it's a journey, and eventually you will get there provided you commit to it.
And so I feel that if I become detached,
Right.
and if I go down that path of just being detached, I'm gonna assume that nothing's really happening to me. It's happening through me. I feel like at a certain point, nothing will make you happy or sad. And I feel that that's very similar to some people who go into depression as well. Some people that they take it almost like a guilt. It becomes a negative effect on them. Like, where do you draw the line, and how do you practice this in a positive way, right? Yeah.
No, that's a very good question. And look, I'll just share my thoughts. I'm no expert when it comes to depression and all. See, in the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says this to Arjun, that an enlightened person, a person who has been blessed with this divine knowledge, rises above dualities. Dualities meaning, as you say, happiness, sad, rich, poor, all these things, these are at dualities in life. He says that an enlightened soul accepts everything that's happening to them and then does his actions. The very famous shlok of Bhagavad Gita, Karmanyavadhikarasya ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturbhu ma te sangostava karmani. There are three things Sri Krishna is telling Arjuna in this. He says, you have the freedom to act and act alone. You have no control over the fruits of your action. Second, he says, do not consider yourself to be the cause of the results of your action. See, when you consider yourself to be the cause, one of two things happen. One, if it happens the way you wanted it to happen, ego comes up.
Yeah.
If it doesn't happen the way you wanted it to happen, you start beating yourself. Why did it not happen? Did I not do it right? The third thing Sri Krishna is saying is that never surrender to inaction, meaning do your action, execute your responsibilities. So I would say the answer to your question is to have this wisdom, realize that only action is in my control. The results are not in my control. And if I can ingrain this in my behavior on a day-to-day basis, right? Even when emotions come, whether it is positive emotion or negative emotion, whatever you want to label it, you start appreciating them as emotion, but you continue to do your responsibilities. It takes time. This is a journey, right? But it takes time, and you can get there provided you commit to it. And I have seen practical examples in my life, and I can quote a couple of my mentors, Prakash Joshi ji in Mumbai, Rajan Sajdev ji here in Chicago. I have seen them live practically like this. So it's not that they don't experience emotion. They experience emotion, but they don't get entangled in them because they have that wisdom that they have accumulated over a period of time.
Awesome. Someone from our community, so the Enjoy Karo Yaar community, before this podcast, we talked to the youth ages from 18 to 25,
Okay.
whatever is relevant. And one question that came up was that in North America, everything is built around individualism,
Right.
right? And so how do you stay connected? So you talk about being spiritually connected.
Right.
When you can't make it to your place of practicing spirituality, which can, for some people, it could be a mandir, it could be gurdwara, it could be a satsang, it could be a church, masjid as well. People have different forms of spirituality. It could also be just being with your friends and talking.
Right.
Like, how can you do this, and how do you make time for this?
So you make time for anything that's your priority, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sure you have a busy schedule, but this podcast has become a priority for you. So you have made time for it. Like right now, what time is it? Right now, it's more 12 a.m., right? 12 a.m. And we are here sitting and doing this. Why? Because it's a priority for you. So if it's a priority for you, you will do it. We discussed about me loving to read. I love to read. And literally, I cannot go to bed without reading at least a few pages.
Yeah.
It has become a priority for me. So if this also becomes a priority for you, then you will figure out a way. And nature creates opportunities for you. Nature will put you in situations where you will get the right guidance and support, provided you make this a priority and you want to do it in your life. So the onus is on you.
And some people also start doing these things because, say, someone told me your exam's gonna go well.
Right.
If you go to like
Correct.
place of worship.
Correct.
And it goes well.
Right.
And I go the next time and it doesn't go well.
Right.
Right. So how does someone go a step up beyond just that ritual or coincidence
Right.
phase of just going?
Right. So first of all, in the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says this to Arjun. He says that doing rituals and practices, this is important. And you should do it, but make sure that when you do it, understand the reasons behind doing these things. And he says it is the first step on the path of spirituality. He says beyond the rituals, you need to start asking what's beyond this. And when that question comes, as they say, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. When that question comes, a spiritual master will come in your life. And you will get the knowledge of who you truly are. After you get that knowledge, Sri Krishna is telling Arjun that you need to contemplate on that knowledge, meditate on it, get your questions answered. Because when that happens, you will actually practically start implementing that knowledge. So there is absolutely nothing wrong in rites and rituals, right? But at some point that wisdom has to come that I need to rise beyond this. Just to go back to the example that you said that, I'll do XYZ and my exams will go well. And that happens sometimes. But sometimes no matter how many XYZs you do, the exam doesn't go well.
Yeah.
Because the fact that your exam will go well or not depends on your preparation, not on those external prayers, right? Prayers has its own power. What prayer does is that it steadies you. It makes sure that your anxiety doesn't overcome your preparation. Quite often it happens that I have prepared very well, but if I'm not able to control the anxiety of the results of those exams, right, my preparation can go to waste. That's where prayer helps. Prayer studies you, and then whatever preparation you have done will translate into results.
Awesome. And so can we say that prayer, a manifestation is another name for prayer?
Yeah.
If I start manifesting that, I'm going to start, like I'm going to study,
Right.
but the result's not up to me,
Right.
but I hope it goes well, whatever is best for me. Is that a prayer as well?
Yeah, it is a prayer. And I'll give a simple example here. Like I have two young kids. My daughter is in high school right now and my son is in middle school. And there was a point where, when my daughter used to say that, okay, I gave my exam, my question used to be like, okay, what grade do you think you're going to get? But eventually I realized that I need to stop asking that question. What I started asking her is, have you prepared to the best of your abilities for the test? And then after an exam, I would say, did you do your best in the exam? After that, whatever results come, they come. Because the reality is that the results are not in your control.
Yeah.
The fact that we want to control the results is what creates anxiety and all these other negative emotions associated with it. I need to bring that mindset shift that what's in my control is preparation. Prepare and then just do it.
Awesome. So, in what we see in today's world is that we prepare for a job. We prepare for an exam. They say, with great power comes great responsibilities.
Right.
And this is something that I genuinely wrestle with as well. If I gain real power or success,
Right.
how do I make sure I don't become the very thing I dislike? And let me give you some context on this. Some people on social media they say a billionaire and they're like, you know what? To make $1 billion, they had to take a lot of decisions which could have negatively affected people.
Right.
The environment, it could have negatively affected people. May have got laid off. The people who are developing these latest AI models, their desire was to become the best AI engineer.
Right.
But a byproduct was that people were getting their lives are being ruined, or
Right.
people are getting
Right.
their jobs laid off.
Right.
So how, like, if I gain real power or success, how do I make sure I don't become the very thing that I dislike?
Yeah. That's a first of all excellent question. I want to appreciate you for that. So I'll go back to Bhagavad Gita again. In the Bhagavad Gita, there is a complete chapter on this concept of Karma Yoga, where Sri Krishna is telling Arjun that an enlightened soul does every action with the intent of doing something that is beyond their personal goals and desires. No action of an enlightened soul is directly tied to their personal goals and desires. So, as I said, I work for a book publishing company, right? So, when I wake up in the morning and I log in, I remind myself that the work that I'm doing is directly connected to my company's mission and vision statement, which is to put books in the hands of kids globally. This is literally what Sri Krishna tells Arjun, that you need to operate with that mindset, that every action that you do tied to something that is beyond your personal goals and desires. When you operate like that, you turn every action into, action is karma, but you turn every action into yoga. So you rise above your personal goals and desires. You think about it, abuse of power is nothing but catering to your personal goals and desires, which are directly tied to satisfying your ego's goals and desires. As I said during the podcast, that ego thinks that I am the hero of this movie and everybody is here playing a supporting cast just for me. And when you have power, that is what you want to do, right? You want to satisfy your ego, feed your ego. But Sri Krishna is saying that enlightened soul operates in a completely opposite way, where they tie every action to the benefit of the society. If you adopt that mindset and start operating like that, you will make sure that you don't abuse your power. Yeah.
But sometimes the job we have or
Right.
the task we have to do,
Right.
it's not in our control.
Right.
And I might see from a third person point of view that what I'm doing or the company I'm working for,
Right.
it's not a good company or it's not really doing benefit,
Right.
but I need to pay my bills,
Right.
right? If I have a family to support,
Right.
I need to bring food on the table.
Right.
What would you suggest a person in that situation, because they don't really have a choice as to what job they're doing or task? Obviously, they can start looking for a job or a different
Right.
industry, but sometimes people don't have that flexibility.
Right. See, it's a very interesting and practical problem that we all face with, right? And I'll go back to the point that my mentor had said, that when you're facing a situation like that, you have one of three options. If you don't like a situation, change it. But then we may not be able to change it, right? Then walk away from it. But you may not be able to walk away from it. As you said, you have to pay your bills, and right?
Yeah.
Then you need to develop the virtue of patience, learn from the situation and circumstance, and wait for the opportunity where you can either change it or walk away from it.
Okay.
So not every time you will be able to do what you want to do, but then learn, and wait for the opportunity to either walk away from it or change it.
Yeah.
And at that time, have the courage to do one of those two things. Because otherwise, often it happens that you get into a comfort zone. The psychologists say that that's why people stay in an abusive relationship also. It's abusive, it's harming me, but people stay in that relationship because it's familiar. At that time, you need to have the courage that when the opportunity presents itself, I should be ready to walk away from it or change it.
Yeah.
So sometimes you'll have to develop the virtue of patience, walk through it, but keep learning your lessons. Because what happens is that at some point, life will put you in a position where you will be in a position, you will have the power where you could become abusive. Then if you have learned the right lessons, then at least you won't behave like that when you reach there.
Yeah. Awesome. No, that was an amazing way to answer that. So let's go into just a follow-up on that question.
Sure.
It's about ethics versus economics. So should a business decision ever be driven purely by economics or even when it conflicts with what you believe is right? So it's putting another spin on that same type of question, but like now you're making a decision that your company needs to make. Let's say you have to complete this deal,
Right.
but you know that this deal might be taking books away from children, but you know it's like it will increase your profit margin at the end of the day. Like, what would you do in that situation?
See, what happens is that quite often I feel that if you allow yourself to sit with the decision and listen to your inner true self, you will think long term.
Okay.
Quite often I feel that we think short term. Every quarter I have to report the results to Wall Street
Yeah.
if I am a publicly listed company, right? And every quarter if I don't show growth, my stock value is going to go down. But then there are these courageous leaders who think what is going to happen 5 years down the line, and they take decisions which the market thinks is wrong. Their stocks go down, but then when the decision starts materializing in 1 or 2 years, the stock starts zooming up. And there are so many examples of this. If you are reading any management related book, you will see so many examples like that. So it's about you need to have the right strength to take those decisions, that I'm not going to think short term, I'm going to think long term.
Yeah.
Right? And in the short term, it may appear attractive to do this, but it is going to have a negative impact.
Yeah.
So then I need to have the courage to do the right thing. So I would say we need to have the courage to do the right thing. In the short term, it will appear that I'm failing, but eventually it shows those results.
Yeah.
There is a very beautiful speech by Steve Jobs, the Stanford commencement speech. If you go on YouTube and search it, he says that you can only connect the dots looking backwards. I absolutely love that line.
Yeah.
And visionary leaders understand that. So they don't give in to short-term gains. They wait for that long-term materialization of their vision and mission, and they stick to it.
Yeah. I guess we can apply that same concept to spirituality or just your life in general, right?
Yeah.
Like if I know I want to be fit when I'm 40, I need to start now.
Well
and
said.
Not making
Well
those
said.
short-term decisions.
I'm in 40 and I'm struggling. So yeah.
No, you're amazing. You look amazing.
Well said.
So, thinking long-term,
Ji.
most young people in the short term, for example, I am just graduating from university.
Right.
The biggest setback I would have had is like I failed a course or I got a bad mark. That's probably the biggest setback that I could have. People are obviously in such different situations.
Right.
But if I'm entering the real world now, which
Right.
they call the real world is full-time job,
Right.
what's different about real failure? For example, like I lose a job. Or something that shakes you completely. Like how do you, first of all, as a student, how do you prep yourself for that mindset? And then like how did you survive it if that ever happened to you?
It has happened to me. It happens to all of us, right? Again, I'll go back to the fact that when you experience failure, emotions arise, right? There is pain, there is anger, there is despair, and you start questioning, why didn't I do what I should have done, right? But in those moments, after you acknowledge those emotions, it's very important to surround yourself with the right people, people who will steady you and help you understand that what's gone is gone. The past is past.
Yeah.
No matter how much I despair on it, no matter how much I spend time thinking, oh, I should have done this and that, you cannot change that.
Yeah.
The only thing that's available to me is the present moment. So in this present moment, what can I do to correct what the failures of the past? What can I learn from it and then start over again? That starting over again, you need courage to do that. So two things are needed, I would say. Surround yourself with the right people who will help you to understand that what's done is done. In this moment, what you have, what can I do to correct the situation? And then have the courage to do it all over again.
Yeah. So like if I was able to have courage in university to get past a failure, could be like a bad grade.
Right.
Do you think I should have confidence in myself that I'll be able to handle it if I lose a job in the future?
Right.
Or do you think like it's going to be a completely different experience?
See, they say that you learn more from failures than successes.
Yeah.
So if you develop that attitude of learning, I got a bad grade, I learned, I failed or whatever, or a bad grade, but I learn from it and then I implement the learnings and I get good results, that is going to prepare you for your job situation much better than anything else.
Yeah.
So you learn from failure more than success is what they say, right? And it is true. Provided you adopt the mindset of learning from the failures. Otherwise, you will get stuck in the loop.
Yeah.
And you'll keep failing until... And nature is such that it will keep throwing you into those situations until you learn.
Yeah.
So it is better to learn as early as possible. implement it, and then you will be better prepared for what comes next.
Awesome. So I can say I will build more confidence as I go through more failure.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Say there's this beautiful Japanese saying that I absolutely enjoy about spiritually enlightened people. They say, before enlightenment, chop wood. After enlightenment, chop wood. Meaning, before enlightenment also you do your responsibilities.
Mhm.
After enlightenment also you do your responsibilities. Not that ups and downs will not be in life, but you respond to situations after that.
Yeah.
You stop reacting to them.
Yeah. Awesome. Well said. Well said. Now, this is a bit of a different topic, but it still involves our life.
Right.
It's about relationships and cultural expectations.
Okay.
So, young people often get caught between personal desires and deep cultural expectations.
Right.
And especially around relationships. What
Right.
that can mean is that if I'm in a relationship with someone
Right.
and I like them,
Right.
but then I have this expectation from a family or the other person's family that, you can only marry within your culture, or you have to do certain things this way.
Right.
We'll choose the right partner for your relationships. So, what's your perspective on this?
I think in situations like this, communication is the key. See, at the end of the day, just to go back to that very specific example that you gave, right, that your family wants you to, say, marry in a one culture only. And let's say that you are in love with somebody else, right? Are you able to communicate that with your family? The reality is that at the end of the day, your family wants you to be happy. Are you able to create a relationship where you are able to communicate effectively with your family and let them know that this is where my happiness lies? If I go in a different direction, I will be miserable. I'll be, I marry somebody that I'm not in love with, that person will also become miserable through no fault of their own, right? They were not even in the part of the picture. So I'm making them also miserable. But to do all of this, it's very important to have communication.
Yeah.
What I have realized, and myself, I've come through these cultural barriers also, right? And I've learned over time that communicating in relationships is absolutely important. It is very important to be vulnerable. For some reason, we feel that it's not okay to show my weakness and be vulnerable. But if I cannot be vulnerable in front of my family, where else will I be vulnerable?
Yeah.
So be okay to be vulnerable, show up, communicate effectively. I have a strong feeling that the family wants your happiness at the end of the day. And if I'm able to communicate effectively, I should be able to get that through to them.
And at what point do you realize that, I've tried my best,
Right.
applied that 3 framework,
Right.
situation framework, and would it be okay for me to think that, what, I know what's best for my life? Should I just take that courage and make the step that, what, I'm still gonna do it, but I think this is the best for me? What advice would you give to those people?
No, yeah. See, the reality is that not even if you're the best of communicators, if the person in front of you is operating completely under the influence of their ego, they may not be able to understand what you're trying to communicate, right? And at some point, unfortunately, you may even have to walk away from a relationship. That happens, and that's one of the 3 options, right?
Yeah.
Walk away. So, and nobody else can decide this. It is only you who knows at what point I have to walk away. Going back to that abusive relationships examples also, right? There is a limit to which, up to which you can even adjust or manage. And nobody else knows the limit except you. So yeah, sometimes you may have to even walk away from a situation like that. And only you can decide that.
Yeah.
That comes only with wisdom. And before taking that decision, it is absolutely important to ask myself and realize that, am I operating under the influence of my ego?
Yeah.
So have that wisdom, be grounded. And sometimes you may have to take a tough decision. I hope it doesn't come to that, but sometimes it does happen.
Yeah. And I feel that sometimes these decisions don't even happen just because of ego. It also happens because of cultural trends that have happened since the past.
Right.
For example, we have caste, religion divisions
Right.
that are created.
Right.
And the question for you is, like, you've read history. Do you think that, like, what was the original purpose of them? if you know? And do you think they still serve a purpose today, or have they outlived their meaning?
See, this is a very ancient question that has always been around, and I don't think we'll solve it on this podcast. But just to go back to Bhagavad Gita again, right? The whole caste system was created as a means of distribution of responsibilities,
Okay.
and every caste had its specific responsibilities to be executed, and the responsibilities were not considered to be inferior or superior.
Hmm.
Every responsibility was important, and everything had to be done in a certain way over a period of time. Whether it is individual ego or a group ego, the ego wants to be more important than the others, right? So whether it is at the microscopic level as an individual or a macroscopic level as a society or a group, right? One group started thinking that I'm better than you and then the others, you know, and that's where the division started coming.
Hmm.
So the original intent was never that. The original intent was just to create a differentiation of responsibilities. And again, Sri Krishna says to Arjun that you have to live your true nature, meaning identify what is your true nature and live according to that, right? So just because a father is doing XYZ, the son doesn't have to do XYZ. The son may be having the qualities to do ABC. That Sri Krishna has explained this also very beautifully. But we, over a period of time, we as a society fabricated that, twisted that, again, at an individual level or at a group level to satisfy the needs of our ego. But I do feel that people are, that's where spiritual masters play a big role. And that's why I feel spiritual masters have always come to the aid of humanity. Because when you understand the divine knowledge that they give you, they realize that you're not bound by these things. In fact, in the Sant Nirankari mission, one of the principles of the Sant Nirankari mission is never to discriminate against anybody on the basis of their caste, creed, or religion. You don't have a choice as to what religion you are born in, right? And then afterwards, right, in today's day and age, you even have a choice to change your religion or be a religious, right? So one of the principles of Sant Nirankari mission is to never discriminate against anybody on the basis of these things. Yeah.
Awesome. So there's a quote that says, "A man with one watch always knows the time.
Huh.
A man with two is never sure." And that's basically like, can too much information, too many frameworks,
Right.
could that actually work against you?
Yeah, no, that is correct. I do believe that is the case. Um, um, see, we'll go back to that point where we had discussed that you need to have a goal and then you need to have a plan to achieve the goal, right? It is the same thing with information also. It's good to be curious. As I said, I read books primarily because I want to understand all the knowledges, right? But then after you know the truth, there is no need for you to go and look for versions of truth, because truth is only one,
Yeah.
always. If you're sick, all you need is medicine to get better. Once you get the medicine, you don't want to go out and search other versions of medicines, right?
Yeah.
Because the goal of the medicine is to get better, and you get better. So what I'll say is that truth is always the same. Once you have achieved the truth, you don't need to go out and look for other versions of truth. So yeah, too much information can delude you if you don't have the wisdom to create that separation. If you have developed that maturity and wisdom that I'll get all of this information on the same topic and I can keep it separate, then that's fine. But that's a very high state of wisdom, and if you achieve that, well and good for you. But I do believe that they say, right, if you set your foot on two different boats, you're never going to achieve your destination. Pick a lane and drive on that.
I feel that everything in life, you can, if someone gives you a solution, you can just go like, why?
Yeah.
Why? And you can keep going, why? Like, when do you think that why question needs to dissolve? Like, like, how do you get to a state where you know that this is the permanent truth, and there should be, or there's not should be, but there won't be any more why questions?
That happens only after you experiment with the truth that has been given to you. So even from a spiritual perspective, right, when your spiritual master shares this divine knowledge with you, have you experimented with it? Have you experienced it? If you experiment with it and you experience it, you achieve that, the way we started the whole conversation, right, about achieving eternal happiness. Once you experiment with it and you taste it and you realize that this is what eternal happiness is, after that, what else is there to look for?
Yeah.
So the onus lies on me That after I get that truth, after I get that knowledge, do I actually experiment with it? Do I implement it? So
Mm.
it's on you. Use it. After you use it, you will realize this is what I was looking for.
Yeah. So if for a 20-year-old, could be 25-year-old, who has listened to this entire conversation
Right.
and just took one thing away,
Right.
what would you want it to be?
Find the answer to the question, who am I?
Hmm.
Every human eventually reaches that point where you will ask the question, who am I?
Yeah.
The earlier you get to the question, the better it is. So my suggestion will be, ask yourself, who am I? And going back to that the line that I had said, that when the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Hmm.
When you start asking the question of who am I, the teacher will appear. And today, as I said, Sadhguru Mata Sudiksha Ji Maharaj is here blessing humanity with the answer to that question of who am I. Once you understand who am I, once you understand your true nature, all of these other questions automatically start dissolving. There is a term in the Bhagavad Gita where Sri Krishna says to Arjun that when you finally understand who you are, you start living Jivan Mukt, meaning in while alive in this body, you are completely free.
Hmm.
Free from the attachments to the body, free from the attachments to your mind, intellect, and ego. You are totally free.
Yeah.
And when you're totally free, you attain that eternal happiness. So I'll say start thinking about who you are truly.
And do you feel like that every day now?
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, do you think this is it? Like, there's nothing above this?
So, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
The knowledge that Sadhguru has given to me, there is nothing above it. Now, what is left is to implement it
Yeah.
on a day-to-day basis, and it's an exciting journey. There are days when I take a step back, but the important thing is to show up again the next day, keep moving forward.
Awesome. So everything we've talked about today, and there's much more of it in your book.
Yeah.
And what would you want to tell people about what Being Boundless is, and where they can find it? Who is it for? And just a little bit about what you were thinking when you got the opportunity to write this.
Yeah. So first of all, I want to call out my co-author, Tushar Sangle.
Yes.
He is also in the field of technology, working for one of the major consulting firms globally. The two of us were given the opportunity to write this by Nirankari Rajpitaji. He's the spouse of Sadhguru Mata Sudiksha Ji Maharaj. A year ago, he was on a tour of North America, and he blessed us with this opportunity. He said that you two have had an interesting journey in your life. When it comes to your spiritual evolution, write about it, document it. And it was his vision, Nirankari Rajpitaji's vision, which has materialized in the form of this book. The two of us are not authors. I do believe that the book was written through us. We were just instruments. Who is this book for? I would say this book is for everybody.
Hmm.
If you are a human, this book is for you.
Awesome.
If you ever have this question of who am I, right, that
Yeah.
eventually you get to read this book. We have just expressed our journey. Somewhere through the book, I have a feeling that you will relate to it, whether it is about work, whether it is about family life, whether it is about your own spiritual journey, you will relate to it. As far as where you can find the book is currently available in any of the Sant Nirankari Mission branches globally. You can walk into one of the branches and you can pick a copy from the publication department. The Kindle version of the book is now available on Amazon.
Awesome.
And the paper version, the hard copy version, would also soon be available on Amazon. The date is not yet decided, but the Kindle version is available already.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for being here. So this is the end of our first segment. And if you're interested, there's going to be another segment. So listen along. Welcome back to the second segment of the Enjoy Karo Yaar podcast. Over here, we're going to talk a little bit more about God, faith, and just personal experiences. So just to start off,
Right.
how would you describe your actual current personal relationship with God right now?
Right. See, when after Sadhguru blesses you with this divine knowledge, right? There are two aspects to it. One aspect is that you understand what God is, and the second aspect is that you are it. In the Upanishad, it is said, "Aham Brahmasmi." You are Brahma, meaning you are God. Your true nature is of God, and God is manifesting itself through you, right? So the journey, the relationship is to become that. So the excuse me. So the journey starts, the spiritual path starts by coming to a Sadguru and requesting for this divine knowledge. And once you get this divine knowledge, the journey after that is becoming that,
Hmm.
becoming Nirankar, becoming God, right?
Hmm.
Letting God manifest itself through you. So the relationship is all about becoming that, dropping the I. So at any given point of time, you can either be connected to God, you can either be connected to your ego or
Hmm.
Maya, as they say,
Hmm.
right? So the journey is about that. So connection with God is nothing but dropping your I, dropping your ego, going away from Maya and connecting with God.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Have you had any experiences where you felt that, like this is it, like this is God, I'm feeling God's presence, like people say?
Yeah. See, in the Santirangkara mission, after Sadguru blesses you with the divine knowledge, Sadguru asks you to do three things. One is to start meditating on the knowledge that has been given to you through Sumiran. We call it Sumiran. And it is done in three lines. Tuhi Nirankar, meaning you acknowledge the presence of God around you. Main Teri Sharanha, meaning I surrender my ego. So when you surrender the ego, you're connected with Nirankar.
Hmm.
And Menu Bakshlo, meaning forgive my trespasses for the times I operated under the influence of my ego. You know, so the more Simran you do, the more you start becoming like that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And when we talk about that last line,
Right.
like forgive my mistakes,
Right.
if you're not the doer, then how are you able to ask for your mistakes?
See, the mistakes happen because I operate as a doer.
Hmm.
So the apology is for that, those actions that I took.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Like you moved to new cities, new
Yeah.
places where there was no family, no satsang, no
Yeah.
community.
Right.
How did you keep your spiritual life alive in these moments?
Yeah. I mean, as you start walking on the path of spirituality, and it is true for any paths for that matter, right? And when it is your priority, it becomes like food for your soul.
Hmm.
It is required. In the book, at one point, I have mentioned that I had arrived in Albany, New York, and the only place where the closest place where the congregation was happening at that point was in New Jersey, a 3.5 hours drive, right? So I used to drive, take a rental car and drive and come to the congregation. And at that point, the congregation, most of the congregation in New Jersey was speakers were in Punjabi, and I
Hmm.
didn't understand Punjabi.
Hmm.
So even though I was coming because I had that hunger,
Yeah.
right, I couldn't understand what was being said, and that was frustrating me.
Yeah.
And when I spoke with my mentor Prakash Joshiji, he said the only options that you have is stop coming to congregation.
Hmm.
That was not going to happen because that's the food for my soul.
Yeah.
I am going to come. So then he said that okay, then learn the language,
Hmm.
figure out a way.
Yeah.
So when it becomes your priority, when you realize that it's the food for my soul, right? You figure out a way to reach to
Yeah.
connect with it.
Aw-
But as far as the realization piece goes,
Yeah.
right? There is a reason why Sadhguru has asked you to do Simran,
Hmm.
remembrance. The more you do remembrance, the more you do the Simran that Sadhguru has given you, you start dropping the I.
Hmm.
And when you drop the I, that emptiness that you experience is actually your true nature.
Hmm.
You can call it emptiness or you can call it everything.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's looking at the coin from two different sides. But that realization is nothing but dropping of the I.
Hmm.
When that feeling of I drops, that is when who you truly are. We often hear athletes talk about the fact that I was in the zone.
Yeah.
They say that I was in the zone. The psychologist Mihail Csikszentmihalyi, he has written a book called as Flow. He has studied this phenomena and he wrote a whole book on it with the title of Flow. He says that when you are not anxious about your past, when you're not regretful about your past, and when you're not anxious about the future, you're completely in the present moment.
Mhm.
And when you're in the present moment, you're in the state of flow. Means what? It means that when you're not under the influence of your ego,
Hmm.
because your ego is trying to control the outcome.
Yeah.
So if you're not connected to the ego, you're connected to your true self.
Yeah.
That is what it is all about.
Yeah.
Connecting the true self. When you connect, you will realize that.
So it's like the drop is trying to go back to the ocean. I think almost everything
Yeah,
I've
very
heard,
nicely said. Yeah,
it's we're trying to go back to the source.
correct.
And how do you think this? They say the truth never changes.
Yes.
So why do you think people disagree religiously? If the truth never changes, if it's the same thing.
Yeah, I think that's because, I feel like I've repeated this theme a little bit, but I feel it's the reality that, the ego says that what I am doing is right.
Hmm.
And then when I'm under the influence of that thought process, right, I don't even have an open mind to listen to others. I absolutely love reading the books by Adam Grant. He's an organizational psychologist, and some of the books that he has written, one of his my favorite book of his is called as Think Again. It's on this topic, that don't be under the influence of ego, keep a flexible mind, be ready to listen to others thought process as well. And if you're ready to listen to it, you will realize that these religions and philosophies, they are just different paths to arrive at the same truth,
Yeah.
because truth is truth.
Yeah.
It can never change.
Mhm.
False will take different forms, but
Yeah.
truth will always be the same. There may be different paths to get there. That's all.
And you may have answered this question many times and you get it a lot. People ask, then why was all of this created? Right?
Yeah.
Um, so if someone has that question, how do you think they can give themselves some sort of assurance or some sort of, answer to that question? Like this is maybe was why it was created, or do you think it's something that just have to like just it's something that it just is?
See, there are books out there where psychologists, researchers, and even there are scriptures out there which have tried to find an answer to this, actually. And because I love to read, I have read a bunch of these books and everything. But everywhere, almost everywhere, everybody has come to the conclusion that trying to find a one size fit all answer to this question is a futile attempt.
Hmm.
Depending upon your thought process, you will be able to come up with various answers to this. In the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says to Arjun, it's nothing but Leela, an act, it's play.
Yeah.
God wanted it, and so it happened.
Yeah.
It's like that, After having read several answers on this question, I have come to the conclusion that there is no point in trying to answer this question.
Hmm.
Just acknowledge what is there right now and enjoy it, and just do your actions.
Yeah.
There's no point in trying to understand why this existed in the first place. It's like trying to say that why was I born, right?
Yeah.
But I am born. I'm here already. So why do I have to spend my time thinking about why I was born? You're already born. You're not going to be able to change that.
Yeah.
Figure out a way how I can live better now.
Yeah.
Spend your energy there.
Hmm. And people have a fear of death as well.
Right.
What would you suggest people like? How do you get rid of that fear of death? What are your thoughts on
Yeah, the death is the biggest motivator, right? They say. Next to public speaking, they say, death is one of the biggest fears people have. See, again, go to the feet of a spiritual master.
that?
And today it is Sadhguru Mata Sudiksha Ji Maharaj. You come to her feet, and the divine knowledge that she'll bless you with that you will realize that the death we talk about is connected to our body. The body dies. Even in the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says that just as the way we change clothes, the soul changes forms. So when that knowledge and understanding comes, right, you realize that the death is only connected to the body. My soul is eternal. When that understanding and knowledge comes, the fear of death, you know how to manage it.
Yeah.
Because you know that this is not who I am. Only my body is dying. My soul is eternal. So the answer to that is come to the feet of a divine master like Sadhguru Mata Sudiksha Ji Maharaj and get that divine knowledge.
And a question that I've sometimes had is that are you able to interact with your soul in some way? So we have the mind. Obviously, we can talk to ourselves. You have that inner dialogue in your head all the time, like this is what I'm gonna do, this, that. Is there a way to interact with that soul, or because it's formless and like does it act through you? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
See, it acts through you.
Okay.
It is the source through which everything else is happening. So the when you say that interact with the soul is nothing but to connect back to it. In the Taittiriya Upanishad, they use this process. They explain this process called Panchakosh to realize who you truly are. They say that when you talk about yourself, right, you first identify with your body, right? Let's say that a body part, say hand, okay? Even the statement that I say this is my hand. It means that there is a my which is saying this is my hand.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not that hand. Your body has changed so much. But while your body was changing so much, the true I was still there. Then this is the first layer of body. They call it the Annamaya Kosh. Then you go to the next layer called as the layer of energy. Okay. Energy is nothing but various your breathing, your blood circulation and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But you are aware of all of that that is happening. I am aware of the fact that I am breathing when I focus on it. So there is an I that is aware of the breathing that is happening.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not those life forces also.
Mm-hmm.
Then you go to the layer of your mind,
Mm-hmm.
thoughts and emotions. You think that you are the thoughts, you are the emotions. But if you create a gap, aren't you aware of the thoughts that are happening?
Yeah.
Aren't you aware of the emotions? So there is an I that is aware of all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Then they go to the fourth layer called as the layer of the intellect. Either you understand something or you don't understand something. So there is an I which is using the intellect to understand something or doesn't understand something. So there is an I sitting behind it. The last layer they say is called as the layer of bliss. Okay, Anandamay Kosh they call it in Sanskrit, and they say that you experience this when you are in deep sleep.
Mm-hmm.
But when you wake up, you say, I slept peacefully. So there was an I which was experiencing the deep sleep also.
Mm-hmm.
And the Upanishad says that is who you truly are. You have to go back and associate to that. You have to go back and realize that. But to realize that, you come to the feet of Sadguru. So coming to the feet of Sadguru and asking for this knowledge is the important thing.
Amazing. Very well said. Very deep.
Yeah.
You talk about how this electricity is the one powering everything,
Right.
and a human does an action. So where does the hukam play into this? When they say hukam, God's will, it's God's will, the electricity, like if the electricity should go or not, or is it that some part of your action also is influenced by this?
Yeah, see, I feel that there is a misinterpretation here. The whole concept of God's will is not that God is willing something.
Hmm.
God is empowering.
Hmm.
As I said, like God does not do partiality. God empowers all of us equally. It's about me now as to how do I use that power and the will that has been given to us. So again, just my interpretation, and I don't claim that I am right. I feel it's a misinterpretation. God's will literally means God empowering everybody equally, and after that, it's on me as to how I use it.
Okay. Awesome. And when you talk about prayer, we talked about manifestation as well.
Right.
How does a prayer work? If you like, what is your theory on this? Is it something that you're sending good energy to someone? Is it that it could be like maybe the aura that's being created around you? Like how does a prayer and how does an ardas work?
For me, prayer is all about acceptance of what is happening around me. I mean, of course, I've that definition has changed over my spiritual journey. Actually, my prayers in the beginning were all about what I want in my life. Then, when Sadhguru blessed me with this divine knowledge, I realized that what else is there to ask now? Everything else is materialistic in nature, Maya, right? Which is temporary in nature, comes and goes. The biggest thing that I could get, I've achieved it through my Sadhguru's blessing. So now prayer for me is all about accepting what is happening around me, because not accepting the situation will lead me astray, will lead me away from the gyan that Sadhguru has given me. So now for me, prayer is about accepting the will, accepting what is happening around me.
So do you pray for other people, or do you just accept that whatever is happening is perfect?
Yeah, that's a very good question. See, the sign of a God realized soul is that, as I said, like you are thinking beyond your personal goals and desires. So you will think about others, you will wish well for others, right? But you will not set condition that what I have prayed for has to happen.
Yeah.
You accept, you pray for them and then you let it go. You accept whatever happens after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some people say when they pray someone or give them blessings, they're like, may God like bless you. But then the question comes, does God ever stop blessing? Right? So what,
Yeah.
what do you,
God never stops blessing. As I said, like I think I've repeated this a few times now, that God doesn't do partiality. The sun doesn't do partiality. It'll give light to anybody which comes in its aura.
Yeah.
Right? So God is also like that. Equal treatment. It's about how I use what is given to me.
Okay. And then just a little bit on aura itself. Do you think this is a physical thing that happens? Is this a vibration that happens? When people say like I can feel this person's aura into the room, and we have all felt it at some point where like someone who's enlightened or someone comes and we're like,
Right.
like I can feel that positive energy.
Yeah.
Do you think this is something that just in our mind, or do you think this actually?
See, I can only answer based on my experience and whatever readings I have done. Because I don't have too much knowledge about this field. From what I understand, there's a separate field of study about this. I do experience in the company of few people, you experience calmness,
Yeah.
and in the company of few people, you get agitated also.
Hmm.
So that means that energy is emitting out of them,
Yeah.
and it is creating an impact directly on my energy. And there is, as I said, there is a field of study that studies this. But based on my experience, I do feel that people exhibit auras, and that creates an impact on you if you stay in that aura. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys have any questions?
This is more related to the first segment.
Yeah.
There's a
Okay.
saying, hard times create strong men create easy times creates weak men, and then weak men create hard times. How do you stay strong in a world filled with comfort that is trying to soften you?
Challenge yourself. Challenge yourself. That is the way to do it. We when you say that I am bored of something, you know why we get bored? We get bored because we are not challenged enough. Challenge yourself, whether it is in any field, whether you do a sport, pick up a sport so that you can challenge yourself, or at work, try to take the next difficult task that you can accomplish. Challenging yourself and staying engaged is the way to do that. We sometimes feel that I need to have a relaxed life, but the reality is that try to have a relaxed life, you will get bored of that very quickly and you will look to do something else. There is a beautiful book called The Razor's Edge, written by Somerset Maugham. And in that, he says that if you single mindedly chase pleasure, very soon nothing will make you pleasure. Nothing will give you pleasure. It's related to that. You need challenge in your life.
Okay, got it. And you mentioned you grew up in India.
Right.
I also grew up in India.
Uh-huh.
It's relatively harder life in India than here,
Right.
especially for children.
Right.
Do you think that growing up in a hard situation in India, challenging times, made you the man you are right now?
Definitely. Those challenging circumstances have made me be more grateful. I think gratitude is absolutely important, because what gratitude does is that it makes you appreciate even the smallest or the biggest things that you have in your life. So, growing up in those circumstances that I grew up in has definitely made me who I am today, because now I am much more grateful. Yeah.
Do you have a message for the people growing up in the West? Like your children, maybe they are pretty lucky to be growing up in USA, Canada. It's easier life. How do you maintain that challenging mindset?
You do that by looking for doing the next better thing in your life, no matter what it is. But as I said, like whether you play a sport or whether you do work or whether you are in your studies, right? Don't get into a comfort zone. Look to do the next better thing and look for motivation to do that. One thing that we recently did last year was to we took our both our kids to India, and I showed them where I grew up, which school I went to, and it was an experience for them. They realized what circumstances and situations that I grew up in and how I came up, right? Because as I said, like growing up here, you take a lot of things for granted because it's right there available to you, right? So doing things like that, that's why they say that travel is one of the best ways of becoming a creative person, and also to become a better person. When you travel to different places, look at different cultures, look at the way people are, circumstances, and the cultures in which people are growing up, you appreciate them better, and then you come back and then you appreciate your situation better.
Yeah, you're more grateful.
Yeah.
Yeah, got
Yeah.
it.
This question is kind of going back several questions.
Uh-huh.
I remember talking to a saint, and he told me that an enlightened soul usually cannot get depression, cannot go through mental illnesses or face anxiety. However, when we are trying to achieve something in the worldly kind of sense,
Right.
right? You did mention that set a goal, make a plan, and take action. I know. And oftentimes when that happens is you have like a self-imposed anxiety on yourself.
Right. Because you want to control the result.
Yeah, control the result, right?
Right.
So what's the difference between enlightened soul not facing any sort of mental illnesses versus kind of, someone who makes themselves anxious because of their own kind of wants and desires? And is there a way to kind of balance?
See, Baba Hardev Singh Ji Maharaj, who was one of the Sadgurus of Sant Nirankari Mission, he had once said that, while you are embodied, while you are in this body, right, your mind will be there. When your mind is there, emotions will arise, right? But if you get entangled in it, if you surrender to those emotions, the difference between an enlightened person and somebody who doesn't have this knowledge is that the enlightened person knows that I am not that emotion. The more you entangle in an emotion, you identify with and you become the emotion and you start reacting in your life. An enlightened person realizes that this is just an emotion. I'm going to let it pass. And in Sant Nirankari Mission, Sadhguru has given us Simran, the remembrance method that we spoke about, Tu hi Nirankar, Main Teri Sharna Mainu Bakshlo. It's one of the best ways through which you can rise above emotions. So that line that whoever had told you that an enlightened person doesn't get impacted by emotion, technically it is the correct thing. Because the very definition of enlightened person is that person knows I am not the emotion. So they don't allow the emotion to impact them. But it doesn't mean that the emotion doesn't arise. Emotion will arise. While I am embodied, emotions will arise. Just that I don't play with that emotion. It arises, I acknowledge it, I do Simran, and I walk away from the emotion. It's a journey though. It's a process. There will be days when you will take 2 steps back, but show up the next day and stay at it.
Oftentimes,
Yeah.
when you are going through those
Yes.
situations and emotions, it gets very hard
Absolutely.
to detach yourself.
Absolutely.
Is there a genuine step-by-step process for people that are not religious, are not spiritual, have no kind of belief system? Because this is coming from a personal experience as well.
Yes.
I have a friend who does not believe in anything.
Right.
And they ask me this question.
Right.
How do I detach myself when I don't have that foundation or something to relate back?
Surround yourself with the right people. You need to have a really strong support system. The fact that he's your friend, so clearly he has surrounded himself with the right people. Because a question may arise in their mind that how come you are not getting impacted by these things? And obviously, I'm sure that your answer is going to be because of this knowledge that I have from here. So they'll understand that this knowledge is required to rise above these emotions. And secondly, it's quite often we need external medical help also. Go to the right professionals, go to the mental health professionals and to get the right help. That is also required sometimes. So no stigma, do what is right for you. So do that also. So I'll say those 2 things. Surround yourself with the right people so that you have the right support system. Ask for help from that support group and then seek professional help also when it is needed. Yeah. Don't shy away from that.
You said in your discourse today that it's very important for us to read
Yes.
books, read scriptures. Why is that? And just as a follow-up, for someone like me who tries to approach reading these scriptures, sometimes it just comes across as just text. I can't really relate to it. How should I approach that?
Yeah. So not just scriptures, right? Reading anything. One thing, as I said, like it humbles me. I realize that there is so much knowledge out there in the world, right? And even I don't connect with every book that I read. Quite often there are books that I start and I'm not able to connect and I keep it away, pick something else. But I do feel that you should keep reading because there is direct benefits of that. You're enriching your knowledge. You're staying humble. You don't start thinking that, okay, I know it all, right? So first of all, that will happen. That you may not be able to connect with a certain book or a scripture, keep it aside, pick something else. But read. But reading, because reading is other benefit of reading is that when you read, you learn from other people's mistakes. Especially autobiographies if you read, right? So you learn from what mistakes they have made. You will get motivated to do certain things. Why do you want to go through those experiences and then learn? Why not read and learn from somebody else's experiences, right? So that's the other benefit of reading. Yeah.
And just like another question, you kind of already answered this, but I was talking to another saint about this as well. That I was asking them that there's a lot of bad stuff happening in the world, like not just wars, there's
Right.
poverty, people are dying,
Right.
and is this because God's suffering, like God wants this, like why is this happening, or is this just because like it's man's ego and that's why it's happening?
It's the latter. It's the latter. Even in the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna explains very clearly that the way electricity provides the power, and then you can connect a bulb to it and it will give you light. You can connect a heater and it will give you warmth. You can connect an AC and you will get cool breeze from it, right? Electricity does not discriminate what to do. It depends on what you connect to it. So God is also empowering us equally. God does not discriminate. But the power that has been given to you, how do you use it? You have the freedom. So under the influence of my ego, I am choosing to do bad things, and then the outcome is like this. But on the other hand, there are people who use it wisely, and they do the right things, and they are the ones who are keeping the balance and keeping everything going. So it's about us, how we use it.
I guess it's kind of like how in the Bible, how Adam and Eve, right? God said, don't eat the apple. And Eve, through her ego, her own temptation, she eats the apple and then bad things happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can look at it that way as well, definitely. Yeah.
Not really a question.
Ji.
I just wanted to say I had the opportunity to read Being Boundless.
Okay.
It is an amazing book, such an easy read. I had such a fun time reading and I learned a lot. Genuinely, there were a lot of things that I took and I can implement practically in my life. So to anyone who's listening, please read this book. Thank you very much.
No, thanks a lot. And again, I just want to call out my co-author again, Tushar Sangle. And I want to repeat what I said, that the book is a outcome of the vision of Nirankari Rajpita ji, and we have merely been instruments. Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned the importance of reading books.
Right.
Just for our listeners out there, what are your top 5 book recommendations?
Oh, I think this is the toughest question of the podcast. Let me think about this. Okay, so one book that I often go back to is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I actually love to reread that again and again. The other book will be Tuesdays with Morrie by Mitch Albom. The Anxious Generation that I mentioned by Jonathan Haidt, I'll recommend that as well, definitely. Very, very good book. The other book of Jonathan Haidt that I recently finished reading, it's an older book actually, but I finished it just recently. It's called The Righteous Mind. I absolutely loved reading that book as well. There's another book called Man's Search for Meaning by Dr. Viktor Frankl. That's another book. I don't know how many. Is it 5 already? I'll keep saying. That's why I said it is a very tough question that you've asked me. But I think those are immediately popping up in my head. Man's Search for Meaning is also a very beautiful book. Yeah. Of course.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today.
Of course.
We really, really appreciate it. We hope that all the listeners got some really great advice. And we hope to do this again with you soon. And then everyone should really read the book Being Boundless. And thank you so much once again.
No, thanks a lot for having me. And this was an exciting experience for me as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Until next time.